Welcome to this net zero carbon fireside chat. I'm Thomas Watson. Super excited to be talking about technology, how to keep food fresh while also lower emissions. It's a really fascinating topic here, and we're going to be bringing on Oria Malka. She's vice president of sales at Evigence, and it's fascinating. Oria, pleasure to have you on. Tell us a little bit about the company because freshness is a big question, but the stuff is antiquated, and what y'all are bringing is more technology focused approach.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Thomas. This is exciting. Yes, so what we do at Evigence is really monitor freshness from production to consumption. Our company actually originated from only sensors, which really are QR code sensors, but were originally and still are a chemical process sensors that basically mimic the degradation of any perishable product. But we currently do is actually combine those sensors with data analytics and leverage that data into driving our customers with more of a smart or smarter decision-making process, using that data to kind of drive less waste, prevent waste in their supply chain, and also optimize their supply chain. With Evigence, we have a B2B use cases, but also B2B2C use cases that we offer.
And I think it's cool because talking to you, learning about this technology, the traditional method is you just have a arbitrary set of days. I'm thinking, right? X amount of time before. But now with the sensors and the technology and being able to put it on there, you can actually track what part of supply chain as it goes along. Some parts may degrade faster than others, and it leads to a lot of food wastage if you can't quantify that, right?
Exactly, exactly. Our sensors monitor that transit or journey from production to consumption and basically give you where there's a quicker aging of the product and give you that opportunity to really identify that and optimize that stage, but also identify where there's an opportunity to actually optimize the produce shelf life. So if you're actually keeping the product at the best conditions, you can gain more days. Date codes today are conservative and they rely on or they take into account those fluctuations in temperature during supply chains, and they are very conservative into taking, things that you can't predict or you can't know. But using systems such as ours, you can actually manage that and get that breaches in cold chain and act upon those in real time. And by doing that, you can optimize that shelf life later on in your supply chain and basically not throw that product if you're even though that you got to the conservative date codes at the end of your supply chain.
So part of a lot of the waste is because of the date code system that most folks are using, the food could actually last longer, but there's that risk. So there's a lot of waste that's going into it where just folks are hitting that arbitrary cutoff and it could have lasted even days longer.
Exactly.
Looking into
Exactly.
that for
That's right.
carbon as well. So that's one of the things I think is fascinating because the technology ways to reduce your carbon footprint. Well, I'm assuming one is if you reduce the food waste using this technology, having the ability with the sensors, it means that not only more food is lasting longer and not immediately getting tossed if it goes past that arbitrary date, but I'm assuming you're also spending less emissions and other things trying to grow additional crops because you're assuming maybe half of it or something may potentially be lost or waste or a large percentage.
Yeah, that's right. You can learn from collecting a lot of information using the sensors because they cover that end-to-end process and identify those trends and then take it back with our AI analytics mechanism, basically analyze that data and trends and understand where you have those places where you can optimize those processes and reduce packaging materials, insulation materials, and identify where you can go toward more efficient production lines or routes within your cold chain, and by that reduce those, you know, um, carbon footprints or whatever that is, that you can basically make yourself a more of a sustainable company.
In learning with all this data, you're collecting tons of data, you have AI. Was there anything that was surprising or any specific things you were learning that kind of challenged the status quo as you're helping these customers better make their, better make their cold chain more efficient?
Yeah, so first of all, just the trends in terms of which installations materials to use when you ship boxes, when you ship to end consumers, or which routes or which trucks to use, not to overcool your boxes. There's a tendency to use specific gel packs in boxes, and actually you tend to put two of them because of the size of the box, but you don't really need to in some cases, and you need to correlate the size of the box and the number. So it sounds pretty basic, but once you have the sensors there, you understand that there's much more to it. So we identify that you have that data of the size of the case, but then the gel pack and the seasonality of things, and we have that matrix, and it's really easy to see that across the United States, or even outside of the United States. You know exactly when to cut down the gel packs, where to cut down and transition between installations or reduce installations, the right timing. This is where we identify that we can really leverage that data for our customers and give them the opportunity to do that in the right timing, and not when it becomes fall, or it becomes summer, or it becomes, when it's more natural, to really understand that this is the right timing. There are other timings to do that it presents a larger opportunity for those companies.
So I could potentially, if I'm a company doing cold chain, I remember doing this in trucking when we'd ship a beer. Sometimes you need a reefer. Sometimes you can put it in a van without needing insulation or protection. Is there an instance where with the AI and the technology, you now can help them decide when in the past, okay, it's officially fall, I need to like put a crap ton of packs, or it's winter, I need to adjust. The AI can adjust for even changes in weather and seasonal trends to where you're just not wasting all that extra material.
Yes, exactly that. That's the idea, and this is how the technology can be used and adapted with companies that manage their own cold chain or source that services.
And looking at the carbon aspect, I'm assuming one of the challenges is everyone talks about scope three, how much emissions are being put out by the folks who are transporting my goods. Is that another thing where changing using the data? I'm assuming that if I reduce the amount of packaging, I reduce the amount of gel packs, I can also claim that I'm saving carbon because I'm just not. I don't know how expensive these things are, but it seems like it'd be incredibly wasteful if you're not using the data and you're just throwing. They're single uses, right? Or can you reuse the packs?
You're asking if they can reuse the packs in terms of the insulation and
Yeah,
gel
yeah,
packs.
yeah. Can you
The
re?
gel packs can be used again for sure. It's not a problem. You can reuse them depending on which type of gel packs you use and how much you invest in them and what's your cold chain. If you're sending to end consumer, if it's within your supply chain, and so on. But for even if you leverage the data to get to more of a data driven decision making, right, and the insights that you get from the data, you can reduce your costs and um, you know your carbon footprints and become more sustainable, just by taking that data and deciding that you're using a different gel pack that is more efficient and it's more environmental, and that is something that costs less. And even putting two and not three, putting one and not two, would give you the same result with delivering the fresh and quality of the product to your end consumer. So
That's what I'm curious. I love the fact that the especially with the cartonage, the containers, and the packaging. A lot of folks, especially in the cold chain, are used to like giant open boxes, throw it in refrigerated unit. I'm thinking of like immediately from the value chain. But
Mhm.
is there like a sweet spot? Was there anything that surprised you? Like, I'm assuming the bigger the box, I'm wasting space. It takes more packets to cool. Was there any specific item or specific customer or use case that there was like an aha moment where I was like, well, crap, I could save tons of resources by just simply doing more with less?
Yeah. So again, we've seen in the meal kits industry specifically that, will sending to end consumers that actually, there's an assumption again that if you send an extra large box to end consumers, that you need to overcool, like use maybe 2 or 3 gel packs. It's summer and you have to insulate a lot and invest a lot of gel packs. But actually, this is not necessarily the case. You can still reduce it to 1 or 2 and get to the same result and deliver a fresh and and be in compliance with the quality of the product that you want to get to. So I think this is the main finding that we were able to see, and that was a trend across the board. So it wasn't something that was one off or something like that. So we were able to see trends of deliveries and routes across the US that was actually, something we could support with data.
And looking at the sensors themselves, are is it something where the how do the sensors themselves work? Because I've seen a few sensors that can like transmit, they can communicate to like uh, various sensors. But is that something where you're putting them on like the box itself, or just stick it on like a banana? Or tell us a little bit about the sensors, because that's really cool how you're using that tech versus just waiting a few days and eyeballing it.
Yeah. So our sensors, they work a little different. They do not just transmit. Our sensors are, as I mentioned, they are a chemical process. They based on chemical process, and we use any camera operated device to capture the data. We can integrate our technology or apps on existing cameras with our customers, or and consumers can just use their mobile phones. But the sensors are applied on unit or case level. So it's not directly on the banana or apple or something like that, but a close proximity to the product. And what we do is we mimic the degradation of the product. So the sensors themselves are calibrated pre prehend. So before we actually apply the sensor on the case or at unit level, the sensor already calibrated and they monitor the product from production and to consumption. So the sensor knows to basically um, absorb the temperatures and the conditions throughout the product and give you an indication of any breach in the cold chain. Um, a, and that data is being captured when you basically scan the sensor. So they do not transmit or anything back. Um,
So I could find out. That's fascinating to know because it simulates it. You put it on there, and then I could find out maybe a reefer carrier is making their trailer too cold, or it's not cold enough, or maybe my warehouse is actually not as efficient as it needs to be. And so each step of the chain, you finally have the ability to look back and target what is not doing its job correctly compared to just having that blanket 1 or 2 extra day wiggle room that's causing this waste and other stuff.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So what we do is actually we integrate the existing processes across the supply chain. Our sensors are being scanned during those handover points of the supply chain, at entry to distribution centers, during transit, when the trucks are entering the distribution centers, within the distribution center, while leaving the distribution center, and sometimes arriving to the retailer or store, or when it's a B2B2C, it's the end consumer that scans the sensor and get an indication whether it's fresh or not fresh to consume, obviously. But what's fascinating is when our in the food service industry or for retailers, what our sensors are providing to the customers is actually the ability to determine at real time what's the level of freshness of the product. And by that, I mean, is the real remaining shelf life of the product. So they can basically decide how to manage their inventory better. So if you're getting an indication from the sensor at your DC that there's an aging case or a case next to it that actually has more shelf life than you're expecting, you'll manage your inventory a more efficient way. And by that, you'll prevent waste and you'll give a better attention to that aged case. And by that, ensure that your customer is getting the fresh product that you want that customer to get.
I'm excited to see how the tech develops. That makes my life easier. The worst one I ever had was ice cream, and it always melted, and everyone blamed each other across the value chain, and it was such a pain. So what y'all are doing with the sensors and the freshness, that's super remarkable. Folks want to learn more, get in contact with you or Evigence as well to learn more about the tech, how it can also help with carbon reduction. What's the best way to find out?
Yeah, sure. You can visit our website at evigence.com and learn more about what we do or technology, get a glimpse of our product, what it can do for you, and how the sensors look like. We just launched our Fresh Sense, which is a new sensor, and our AR, and a lot of our new and upcoming features in our product. So more to come.
More to come for sure. Going to check it out. Thank you so much for your time. That's a wrap for this fireside chat, folks. We will have it on demand later on if you're just joining us. That's it for now, but stay tuned. We have a lot more chats coming up.